This episode of The Unstarving Musician is powered by Bandzoogle, helping musicians around the world create professional artist websites. I somewhat recently moved my own artist website over to Bandzoogle. You can see it at urbanzo.com. I'm a longtime WordPress user and website designer, so trying a system like Bandzoogle was kind of a big deal to me, but I know that WordPress ain't that easy to learn, and lots of musicians have no interest in learning how to use WordPress, but will try something purported to be easy to use. Well, it doesn't get much easier than Bandzoogle. I've talked about the numerous features they have at the front end of other episodes, but after talking to Dave Kuhl, VP of Business Development with Bandzoogle, on this podcast in the previous episode, you should check it out, I learned about several other features that are especially interesting right now, such as crowdfunding, subscriptions, donations, and all of that without fees added. They also have tools to help you sell merch, tickets to your shows, build your email list, and more. They have support 7 days a week. So look, go to bandzoogle.com to start a 30-day free trial. You can use the promo code ROBONZO to get 15% off your first year. That's bandzoogle.com, promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO. Let's do the show. Welcome to another episode. I am your host, Robonzo. On this podcast, I have conversation with indie musicians and music industry pros to discuss the various aspects of the independent music artist journey. The intent is to help independent music artists do more of what we love, which is, of course, make music. If you're a fan of indie music or a particular indie artist, you too may enjoy this podcast. Hey, do you want to help others find this podcast? You can do so by subscribing on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. It really does help. The Unstarving Musician podcast is made possible through the generosity of listeners like you. One of the easiest ways to offer support is to join the Unstarving Musician community, and you can do so by going to unstarvingmusician.com and join right there on the homepage. As a member, you'll receive from me tips and lessons you can use in your music journey. And this is not just stuff coming from me and my years of experience as a gigging musician, but also from the hundreds of other musicians I've talked to as part of this project and podcast. You'll also get a free copy of the Unstarving Musician's Guide to Getting Paid Gigs ebook, and that is all free just for being part of the community. To learn more about the other ways of offering your support, please visit our sponsor page at unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor. So how are you doing, by the way? Are you hanging in there? Washing your hands? Keeping the social distance? If not for yourself, for the sake of the more vulnerable? Good. I'm glad to hear it. If you're not okay, I understand, and if you need someone to talk to, contact me. You can find all my contact details on unstarvingmusician.com, and seriously, I'm happy to talk to you. Not too long ago, I was the featured guest of a podcast called The Musicpreneur Mindset, which is hosted by Suze Polinsky, a.k.a. the Rockstar Advocate. It was quite the honor. I even had the privilege of being a sponsor for her Musicpreneur Mindset Summit 2019 event last year, of course. Great story about that was told when she visited my podcast, this podcast. Please check out my interview on Suze's podcast, the Musicpreneur Mindset Podcast, episode number 79. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else fine podcasts are found. You can find her being interviewed by me on this podcast in episode 121, and links for both of these will be in the show notes. My guest is Tara Simon, acclaimed vocalist and creator of Tara Simon Studios. In our pre-interview conversation, I learned that she is really into analytics, and as well she should be. She's doing really well on the YouTube. I also learned her name is pronounced Tara, not Tara, which I believe I said at least a half a dozen times during our conversation. I'm sorry about that, Tara. She wanted to be a singer, win a Grammy, and tour the world, and she accomplished a great deal of that, including being recognized as a top finalist on the second season of The X Factor and scoring the role of Serena Katz in a Broadway audition for Fame. We talk about life events that pushed her to change course, however. She is a woman with high standards for her business, Tara Simon Studios, which is a vocal coaching academy first. They train musicians there and other things as well, and I think acting too. But yeah, she's more into that these days than she is that former dream of touring the world, and you'll learn why. But her fans of her music won't be left behind. Tara says she has recorded work of her own in the pipeline, which is exciting. Here is me and Tara Simon. I'm kind of ready to roll, so...
Awesome.
Yeah, by the way, thank you so much for spending time with me, Tara. I really appreciate you taking some of your Friday for me.
Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Of course, and let's see if I keep it straight, which podcast we're doing this for. Those of you that are listening, in kind of pre-production here talking to Tara, we were talking about the fact that she's become quite the business owner, entrepreneur, having started out as an artist, a music artist who intended originally to be a singer, songwriter, and wasn't really thinking about the entrepreneurship. I was anxious to ask you, Tara, what in the world got you so enthused about vocal coaching and the other things that your Tara Simon Studio does?
Sure. Well, there's the answer that most people in my position would like to say, and then there's the truth. And I'm going to just go ahead and tell the truth. I got married young. I met a man when I was 19, and I got married at 23. And I had all these ambitions and all these accomplishments, actually, of being a singer in the music industry. And my dream was to win a Grammy and be a recording artist and tour the world. I did Broadway when I was 19. I was the lead role in Fame. I toured Europe doing that. And I was always very driven and ambitious. Won Best in State at a performing arts high school in Florida, Dreyfus School of the Arts. And so on the come up, that was just a trajectory that was just, a no-brainer for me. And so when I got married, that was the continued path. But I am now divorced. My ex was just, he fell into depression and alcoholism and was just not someone that was reliable as a provider. And so necessity started to kick in, and I was singing wherever I could, and I was touring with bands and, doing the corporate thing, doing whatever I could with what I've been given as a talent to provide. And just really, there was nothing to monetize my day. And I was singing at night, but I was just, I'm a doer. I'm a driver. I'm a hustler. And so I was like, what can I do, during the day? And no matter where I went to sing, no matter what I did, people, instead of they'd be like, your voice is so amazing. Oh my gosh, I have a daughter. Do you teach voice lessons? I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. No, I don't teach voice lessons. Book me for your next party, or get me a meeting with your manager husband in the music industry. I don't want to teach your daughter, and it just kept happening over and over again. And, I've always believed that, God opens doors and closes others. And I felt this annoying sense of persistence with these opportunities to coach, and I had zero interest, negative zero interest in becoming a vocal coach, but they kept coming up, to the point where it was unignorable and undeniable. And so I finally just started to say yes instead of say no, and I started to step into that, and I thought, you know what, I'll give 4 hours of my day, to this, and that's all. And then I'm going to focus on the rest about me and getting me where I want to be in the music industry and furthering my career, mine. And then one day there's a little boy, and I play piano too, and I don't know how. Still, his parents found me. I have no idea. His name is Peter Rose, and he had Down syndrome, and his parents kept taking him to piano teachers who would continue to tell them, no, he cannot play. His hands are too small. No. And they told me this. And the one thing in my life that really ticks me off is when people get told no all the time. Because as someone who is auditioning constantly and then constantly putting themselves in front of gatekeepers like directors, casting directors, agencies, the word no should be fuel, not a deterrent. And so that really, I hate that word when others who are at a disadvantage get told that. And so I said, bring him to me. I want to hear him. This kid played a Chopin piece better than I could. And I looked at them and I looked at him and I said, listen, I'm going to level with you here. He's a better player than I am, but I promise you one thing. I'll push him to his complete breaking point, and I will never tell this kid no, because he's a prodigy. And Peter and I worked together for a few years. He was the catalyst that God used to change my heart towards coaching. As I coached Peter and I saw just his sweetness, his drive, his work ethic, just amazing talent. And how, I mean, this kid, yes, he did have small hands, but in certain pieces he would play, he needed to reach a ninth instead of an eighth. And that's, over an octave. And he was so ingenious about it that even as he knew he couldn't reach it, he found a way to practice and hit them so fast one after the other that it almost sounded like they were together. Like he just always found a way. And I just loved that about him. And again, he really made coaching such a joy for me. And I found such satisfaction, such purpose, I found like it was such a high calling for me through Peter. And shortly after, this was in South Carolina, I moved to Atlanta with who is now my ex, and I realized that I was driving back and forth every week to coach all my students in Greenville, South Carolina, including Peter. And during one of those drives, I got a call from his mom saying that they were at the hospital. He was diagnosed with bone marrow leukemia, and that they were going to have him go through chemo. So I took my keyboard and I took it to the hospital, and we had lessons. And the nurses said, "We've never seen such vitals during chemo. Like, this is amazing. This needs to happen all the time." And I was just as hard on him then as I would be in a regular lesson. And he worked just as hard. And, that kid, as hard as the life that he led was as he was fighting with that disease, he would lay down the whole week, but he would get up for piano lessons and he would play. And I wouldn't give him any grace. We would be just as hard on each other, and he would work just as hard. And it's hard for me not to get choked up about it, because Peter lost his battle to bone marrow leukemia. Sorry.
It's okay. It's a moving story. Keep going.
But what he taught me was just so priceless. And there was one time before he died that he came to Atlanta, and I had just opened up the brick and mortar, and I sat him down on my piano in my room, and I said, "Peter, do you know where you are?" And he said, "Yeah, I'm at Tara's." I said, "Yeah. And you know that the reason that this place exists is because of you." I said, "I hated coaching before you, Peter." And he said, "I love you, Tara." And I said, "I love you too, Peter." And shortly after that, he died. But he got to see it. And I like to think that every lesson that's coached at the studio, we carry Peter's spirit with us, and his legacy lives on, and his striving for excellence and just the love that he had lives on. And I tell my story, and I include Peter in it because I want him to be remembered, and I want people to know that, like, there are so many other difficulties. People make these excuses all the time, like, I can't get a deal, and so I'm going to stop singing, or I can't hit this note, so I'm not as good. When there are people like Peter who can't get out of bed, and yet he did anyway, and he couldn't reach an octave, but he practiced so much that he hit a ninth just so quickly that it sounded like it was in tandem. And I think to myself all the time, when days are hard and busy, life's tough, but life is good because life is worth living. And Peter would want me to keep working and grinding. So I love that, that he's part of my story. And so fast forward to Atlanta and the brick and mortar. As I stepped into that calling, and I allowed, I allowed it to happen. Really, I didn't resist it anymore. Things just started to blow up. And the fact of the matter is, I believe that anybody can have a successful business. You just have to do one thing. You simply underpromise and you overdeliver. And that's what we did every single day. And at first it was just me, and then I got too busy, and then I hired other coaches. And, now fast forward to today, the attempt of growth spawned the YouTube channel, which now has almost 500,000 subscribers, and we release 5 videos a week. We have 3 different series on there. One, Sing Better in Seconds. It's original series. The second is Vocal Coaching Reactions. The third is Vocal Coaching Tutorials. And from there has really opened our services up to the whole world. I mean, we have students on every single continent. We teach in different time zones every day online. And the thing is, what we do works. And we've got celebrity clients, people that are winning competitions, people that are, having successful careers in the music industry because we don't say we're going to do something and then not. And it's really just that simple. And I believe that anybody can have a successful company as long as you just do that one thing. And as far as singing is concerned, I believe that probably the secret sauce for me that I never planned on having is that I actually can tear the paint off walls when I sing. I happen to be a honest to goodness good singer. And I'm not perfect. I mess up all the time. But I as far as, when someone says you have vocal chops, I know that I have those. And so my ability to demonstrate and my coach's ability to demonstrate the things we're trying to teach students, that's where the rubber meets the road. Because a lot of vocal coaches, kind of like songwriters don't necessarily have to be singers to write a good song. They love writing with good singers because then their song sounds amazing no matter what. But just like that's like vocal coaches. A lot of vocal coaches, they don't even sing that great themselves. So when they're trying to demonstrate something, they're not giving that perfect demonstration or that near perfect demonstration to where the student can emulate it. And I think that's really a big deal because all of my coaches, including myself, the requirement is you have to be a working professional in the industry in order to coach. And you have to be able to sing your face off because you're trying to teach other people to do that. So if you can't, then what the heck are you doing? I think it's just authenticity and staying true to integrity and making sure that you do what you say you're going to do. And that's what we've done. And that's why we grow.
Well, thank you for sharing the story. That's great in a lot of different ways, and especially the beginning and, of course, Peter's story for sure. May I ask how old Peter was when he left us?
Peter, I met him, I believe, when he was 9, and he had just recently, I believe, turned 13 when he passed. Mm.
Well, yeah. He certainly sounds like he was lucky to have met you, and likewise for you to have met him.
I'm definitely the lucky one, yeah.
For sure.
Thank you.
And on your YouTube, things move so fast, so things change all the time, and I was just reminded of something I heard not terribly long ago that, so you mentioned 500,000 or approximately 500,000 subscribers, and that's really impressive in a couple of ways. Obviously, 500,000 is really impressive, but the other thing is, that I wanted to reference, I'd recently heard was subscribers doesn't even give you an idea of all the people that are actually watching.
That's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, watching those videos, and I can't wait to check it out. So I'm assuming you don't know this about me, but I've been sort of I'm a drummer for a long time, and I've almost always enjoyed singing, but only until very recently did I decide, okay, I want to take this seriously because I want to do more singing, and I picked the guitar back up. So I can't wait to check out the YouTube channel and see more of what you do. Oh,
definitely.
So how do you go beyond having this criteria for your instructors or your coaches at Tara Simon Studios? What other special something do they have to have besides being a working pro in the industry?
So that's actually finding those people are the easy parts of the criteria. So here's why I don't have more coaches than I do. I have currently 4 vocal coaches right now. I probably stand to have about 15 with demand, but I don't because it takes me months. First of all, I stalk them. That's really the first thing I do is if I hear of someone good, I silently stalk them. Either I go to their shows, I will digitally watch and wait for months. I'll check them out just passively, and they have no idea that I am. And then I'll approach them if I like what I see consistently, and I will let them know that I've been watching them, and I will then ask them, I know you have the talent, obviously, and I know that you're doing a good job with yourself. How is your heart towards pouring into others? Because that's really the thing. That's the magic pairing right there is immense talent and immense compassion. Are you? Does it tick all your boxes just as much as being on stage does to help someone else get there? Because for me, it does. I get literally maybe even more satisfaction going to a Broadway show and watching my artist up there leading in a Tony Award-winning musical than I would being up there myself. And if that answer is no, then they're not the coach for me, because the answer has to be yes. You have to really, for lack of a better term, get off on seeing others succeed. And if you don't, then you're not a good match for the DNA and the culture at TSS, because that's what we're all about, is boosting up others. And if I find that magic pairing, only then do we even approach training. And training is extensive. Training is with me in person for months. there are multiple phases within training in order to become a qualified Terra Simon Studios vocal coach. And the first is obviously they have to learn to play. Even if they don't play the piano, they have to learn to play all of our exercises that I've created. They not just have to play it, but they have to do it without looking, because I want them to be able to look at the student while they're warming up. The second thing is, once that's done, which can take months in and of itself, then we do mock lessons where they're the student and I'm the coach. So they experience what it's like being coached by me, the energy that I give, the things that I say, the analogies that I use, the standards that I set. And then once I feel that they are fluid in that process, then we flip it. And then I'm the student, and I'm the worst student they've ever gotten. I give them the most problems, the most fidgety, the worst pitch, the worst everything, and they have to figure it out. And we'll stop in the middle. I'm like, okay, so what you said there was good, but what you really should have said was this. And we will do mock lessons in reverse until I feel like they're ready to take on a student.
It sounds to me that it's an easy place for a coaching candidate to be intimidated or nervous. Do you find that, and how do you work with them? Is there always a point at which you know how to get them to relax, or does it vary a lot from one coach to the next?
My coaches still get nervous in front of me. I mean, literally, I just had a call with one of my coaches who's been with me for a year, and she had a suggestion or a proposition, something that she wanted to add to her services. And she literally legit said out loud on the phone, she's like, okay, I'm getting a little nervous right now. I'm like, Nikki, it's me. And she's like, I know it's you. That's the thing. It's you. I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, what is happening? So I don't know. I do this thing to people where, I have just made my peace with the fact that that's probably never going to go away. And they know that too. And you just get used to it. Like, it is what it is. So I don't think that it's a bad thing. I think that they just know the standards that are set. They know that they're high, and they reach them. My coaches are amazing singers, but more importantly than that, they are amazing humans. They really, really are. Like, they go above and beyond even what I ask them or require of them. And that's when you've got a good team.
Do you find that you're as much a, I guess, not business coach, but like a coach outside of the realm of singing for those people that come on with you, mentor or whatever it is? And if so, has that always been the case? And maybe you could elaborate on how so, if it is.
That's a great question. I think if you ask them, they would answer yes to the mentor and the life coach aspect, although that's definitely not what I intended. But I will say this. I believe that a good company is comprised of people that are fulfilled, inspired, and satisfied. And I strive to do that. I believe that the best leader is one with a servant's heart. And so, my mentality is that I work for them, and they may feel that they work for me, but in my everyday, I work for my coaches, and I'm there to support them, give them the infrastructure and the policies set in place to make them do their job without having to worry about the rest. And I can say that, it's been a purpose, a very high purpose of mine, to give them an input into them, inspiration. So, when we do status meetings, which is our continuing education opportunities, regularly, we do them quarterly. I'm always giving them motivational quotes. I'm praying over them. I'm speaking into their lives, and I know all of them and their families, and we're very close knit. We are a family, and I like that. I know that they do too. They treat the space as if it's their home, and will let me know, like, hey, this I saw an ant. Maybe we should get it sprayed. I called a couple people. What do you think? They're just amazing like that, and they care, because that's the culture that we've built, and those are the type of people that I hire. And it's not easy to find those people, which is why we don't have 15 versus 4. As far as vocal coaches, we do have other coaches that coach other art areas, but those are our main meat and potatoes coaches, is our vocal coaches. But yeah, I think that if you ask them, they would say yeah, for sure. I wouldn't want to say, oh yes, totally, they're a life coach, because that's a little arrogant sounding. But I will say that I love helping them avoid the pitfalls that I've had to walk through, because I wish someone could have told me. And if there's anything that I can do for them, or any way that I can enrich their lives or enrich their day-to-day when it comes to coaching, that I 100% do.
I'm going to take a left turn here. I wanted to ask you, actually at the outset, but how long have you known Gabby and her pals at B Squared?
Not long, actually. You may be more familiar with them than I am. That my main purpose with joining a publicity company was not because I want to be famous. It was just it made sense because I needed help with social media management, and then they also happened to mention that they offer other services, and I said, okay, sure, why not? So it's been just months that I've been with that company.
And what was it? What were the other facets that perked your ears a bit of outside of social media management?
We're trying to build authority SEO at the company for links to our site and stuff, and so like the blog interviews and things like this were of interest because of that. And it just helps with ranking for SEO. So again, the analytics side, publicity actually helps with if you're smart about using it and if you are thoughtful about where you're spending your time and your money within that realm.
Mm-hmm. Did you, switching again here, as you got more and more into the business, did you find yourself having to seek out a new type of mentor for yourself? New types of mentors, or were they kind of there with you all along and you just started asking new questions?
So that's actually one thing that I would love to have a little bit more of. I do sometimes feel like I am I sort of feel like I'm a pilgrim in uncharted territories, and I'm sort of alone on the road at times. I will say this, I grew up with an amazing support system, a great family unit of entrepreneurs, and my mom and dad still run a business that's very successful together. And so I channel them doing this. I have never honestly had mentors other than them. And there have been people that have given me good advice, but there's really, other than my parents, there's really no person that and my fiance, of course, because he's super smart and is very helpful. But there's really no one person that's outside of my familial boundaries where I can say, this person has really given me all that I need to know and is the go-to. I don't have that, actually. Kind of wish I did, which I then can speak to people who don't have that and say, hey, you don't have to. I mean, you can still do this, it takes research, it takes time, it takes following your instincts, and it takes prayer. And I think the instinct part of it that I was able to build was by watching my family run that business. So I think that was my huge leg up. Sure.
I'm going to mention a couple of names, largely a little, hopefully they'll be interesting for you, but also for listeners who might be tuning in because they aspire to or are working on something somewhat similar to what you do. But I recently had a conversation with another music artist who seems to be really killing it with online education. Her name is Ariane Cap, and I'll put a link to her site in the show notes, and of course I will send it to you if you're interested. And then there's another one who I've actually been a student of in the past, and his name is Mike Johnston. He's actually a drum teacher. He has been super proficient with the online aspects of his business. He basically has an online school, and his website is easier than Ariane's for me to just say. It's mikeslessons.com, which is a funny name for a fantastic educational website. But you might enjoy looking at what they do and maybe even networking with them, and certainly those who are listening would appreciate what they do as well. So
sure, yeah, I'm always down to network. That's great. Thank you.
Yeah. Let's see here. So you mentioned before we started recording that you were contemplating a new studio in Florida, and can you talk a little bit about that? Is it going to be your second facility and a brick and mortar, and just talk a little bit about the plans?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm a believer in a non-cumbersome travel lifestyle, meaning like I don't want to be that person stuck in traffic twice a day. Yeah. So that's really what's holding up that in time. So the plan when I moved down 2 years ago was to open a brick and mortar immediately. But I didn't mention this, but I did mention that I was divorced. I actually had a very dangerous divorce, and I had to leave the state very quickly for the safety of my son and myself. And so I ended up living with my parents real fast because I had a huge house in Atlanta that I literally left with the clothes on my back. And so I was like, I'm not gonna open this brick and mortar right now because I don't even know where I'm actually going to buy a house down here. And so that's really kind of been the thing. Since I have been down here, it's been such a whirlwind. And what organically happened was I started to focus on digital courses online, because that was the next step that made sense in the business, since YouTube was taking off and people were asking and begging for it all over the world. And I can't deny, that profound request. And so I spent time developing my first digital course, 8-week course called Sing Smarter, Not Harder. And then we recently, as of just end of December of 2019 into January of this year, rolled out our follow-up course called Riffs and Runs, which is a 4-week intensive, which is super fun. And so those two courses are doing amazing, and they've really helped so many people around the world really hone in on what technique actually feels like and sounds like, and they're able to build on top of that. So we're going to roll out at least 2 more courses by the end of this year. We have a whole list of different course types and timeframes and all of those things. So it's really been so busy. And I also, again, getting back to the traveling, I didn't want to open up a brick and mortar where I knew I wasn't staying. So I'm getting married in May. We're hoping to move, a little further south. And when we do that, I'm going to be looking for commercial space close to where I live, so that it's very, very convenient in proximity, because I pull a lot of hours and I have a son. I don't want to be that person who's stuck in traffic for an hour. I don't have the extra time during the day. Like, that's just too much time to give up. So trying to make it so that it's very, very close to where we're living.
I've always thought that there's sort of 2 things that stick out in criteria for me, and that is wherever we live, my wife and I, we got to have a view. And
nice.
And wherever we work or play, in my case as a musician, I don't want to drive very far.
Yeah.
If at all. So
totally.
that's great. So I know that, online courses, they're changing a lot. And you've probably been observing and watching them as long as, or maybe longer than you have been working on creating your own. Have you seen any changes that are of particular interest to you right now, or do you just kind of feel organically up to date? What needs to happen when you get more courses going?
To be completely transparent with you, I have never watched anyone else's online courses, so I have no idea if that's the case. And if I know they've taken the world by storm, I know that they've existed for a while. I actually know that I'm a little late to the party on them, frankly. However, I've never taken a single other singer's vocal course. In fact, I'll be impressed to see if I have ever taken an online course, and that's not because I don't believe in them. I have them. What I do take is digital marketing seminars online. I'll do webinars. I'll listen to those things, and I might do some tutorials and things like that. I find that very interesting and very valuable, even though it has nothing to do with singing. It has a lot to do with my business and getting singing to the masses. So that's something that I'm highly interested in, and the art of that and the analytics of that. But for people who are interested in singing, I mean, there's so many courses out there, and that's actually kind of the scary thing. So my biggest complaint with my industry is that there is no gold standard for actual authenticity, meaning anyone can create a website, have a half-decent voice, and say that they're a vocal coach. And that's a really scary thing for people whose voices are a muscle and you can damage it, and you entrust someone who says something and they may not be what they say, or they may have the best intentions and think that they are, but they're just still not. And so really, that's kind of my mission. Is I know that what we do works because you can see the success. I mean, we have celebrity singers like Angelica Hale, 2-time Golden Buzzer winner on America's Got Talent, sings all over the world. She's a student of mine currently still, both before and now. Lauren Lott, lead role in a Tony Award-winning musical Once on This Island. Victoria McQueen, American Idol. Clara Hong, The Voice. I mean, I could go on and on. We've got students doing great things. And that's just on a huge level. That let's not even talk about a local level that you may not know their name, but someone in Atlanta definitely would, or someone in Florida or New York definitely would. So I think the proof has got to be in the pudding, and a lot of people just don't know how to search or what to look for. And that's another thing that drives me, is that I know that we have a quality product. I know that my methodology works, and I feel an onus and a responsibility to those courses to at least say, hey, amidst all of the things that you have choices for, if you're a discerning buyer, you're going to find us and you're going to use us and you're going to hear the progress, you're going to feel it, and you're going to keep coming back. And then you'll be safe because you know you're with us instead of having to search somewhere else. And hey, I'm not saying that there aren't other good vocal coaches out there, but what I'm saying is amidst the good ones, there's a lot more bad ones.
Sure. And I would say that's probably the truth with coaches in general. So I think that's a great, it's a great thing to focus in on, because you've clearly got some street cred. So why not leverage it? I was curious to ask you, when I was looking at TaraSimonStudios.com, I'm always intrigued by retail, and I saw you have a pretty cool little retail shop there, and I wanted to ask you if that was a very big part of the business or a big part of the vision for the future. You have some nice looking stuff, by the way.
Thank you. Appreciate it. That it's something that I just casually put up, and the reason is not because even like I'm big on that. And no, it's not a big part of the business at all. It's very minuscule, to be honest, because I'm doing nothing with it. It's just kind of there right now at the moment. But if you have a YouTube channel, people wanna buy your merch, and a lot of our diehard students, like, they wanna proudly sport that they're in the TSS fam, and so if you don't have that available, they can't do that. And so really that was just the reason for it. And as we grow in our brand and as our brand expands, the fans on YouTube call themselves Terabytes. I think it's hilarious. Like, they came to me and were like, what are you going to call us? I'm like, what do you mean, what am I going to call you? You're my YouTube subscribers. Yeah. They're like, we want to be called something. I'm like what? Like, they're like, well, Justin Bieber calls his fans believers. I'm like, I'm not Justin Bieber. I'm nowhere near as famous as Justin Bieber. Like, why do you want to be called something? But they did, and so they got Terabytes. They voted on it. And so, as things like that grow and we create, like a logo for Terabytes and things like, I'm sure that we'll continue to grow that and facilitate them purchasing merch for that. But I think it's silly and funny, to be honest. I mean, that's not, I guess I've never been the person who ever gets starstruck or easily impressed by that kind of stuff. Not to say that it's not sweet and extremely humbling for me, for people to be feeling that towards my brand. But it's just never something that I would have thought to do. It's kind of like my fans were like the ones that propelling it, like, okay, now do this. I'm like, why? Oh, okay, sure. If you want it, sure. It's not like, and now my evil plan in being famous is to create this merch and everybody's going to buy it. It's kind of backwards. They're the ones that are telling me what they want, and I just kind of do it.
Oh, no, that's cool. Like I said, I'm just always fascinated by retail, and I guess especially with music artists or people that are providing services like you. So thanks for sharing that. And I apologize for that background noise if you heard it.
No, I didn't.
I forgot to mute my phone. So
no worries.
Yeah, I saw the Terabytes thing, and I was going to ask you about it. It's great, and it's funny that they dubbed themselves sort of
it's so funny.
Terabytes. I thought it was great. I have to tell you, I have an artist and someone I actually became acquainted with when I was in the Silicon Valley. But her name is Mira Goto, and she's in Nashville, writing and singing in the country genre. But I forget the story why, but she has the cutest name for her following, her people. And it has to do with llamas, the animal llama, but they're called her Larmy, which I thought was really cute with two L's. Yeah, that's great.
That's adorable.
Are you still getting out? And I mean, I see you recorded, released a tune back in 2019, not very long ago at all.
Yes.
Do you have plans to do any performing or recording moving forward? It sounds that you're so into what you have going on with the studios. Is there room for recording in the future or performing?
I with a jackhammer, yes. I'm forcing it into my schedule. So my fans do want to hear more of me. So the trajectory this year is, I guess I'll do a bit of a spoiler alert. So there is a new single that's coming out in the next coming months. I'm working with a new company that focuses a lot on production and songwriting for the purpose of syncing and licensing, which is what I'm very much interested in. I'm not trying to tour the world, being an artist. It's something that I once thought I would like, but after I was on X Factor in 2012 and experienced what not being able to go to the grocery store was like because too many people knew my face. I actually didn't enjoy that. And I was really grateful to be able to have that opportunity to know that, because what are you if you're a singer, if you're not like, trying to be more successful, which means more people recognize you, which means you're semi-famous or famous. And I really had to take a long, hard look at, okay, well, if I don't like that feeling, if I don't like that lifestyle, like what exactly am I doing? And so I realized that music licensing and syncing is a perfect way to still create and to still to make money, as an artist, but you don't necessarily have to be the one singing it or touring, or, even if you're the one singing it, it's not like, you're the artist, you're more like the facilitator of the song, so to speak. And I like that a lot. And so I'm focusing on licensing and syncing, and I'm doing the songwriting as well as the vocal recordings. I'm working with the production company for the music and the partial co-write. And we're going to be releasing a new one soon in the next month or so. Actually, I got to do a photo shoot for the artwork. But after that, the trajectory, especially on multimedia like YouTube, is I'm going to be doing another series, as if I can release any more than 5 videos a week, as if maybe we'll just do 7. I don't know. But we're going to be doing what's called a one-take wonder. And it's going to be a new series where I literally just either sit down at my piano and sing and play, and I release it, it's all in one take, or I sing it a cappella, or I sing it with a track. But the rule is there's no editing. It's all done in one take. And I'm doing that because I believe that a lot of potential hopeful singers out there, they are so exposed to complete perfection and the auto-tuned airbrush image of an artist, so to speak, that they really have a false sense of reality as far as what a raw one take should sound like. They think that perfected one take that they hear is actually one take, and it's not at all. And so just like I do in my courses and in everything else, with integrity and authenticity, I'm going to pull back the curtain on that. And for better or for worse, you're going to hear it in one take, and you're going to hear the good and the bad. And if there's any ugly in between, you're going to hear it, because it's one take and it's live. I think that's something that my subscribers, especially who are vocally inclined, and most of them are, they want to hear, and they want to be like, oh, okay, well, that's kind of what happens to me at the end of the song. I sort of get tired, or I missed that note too, or whatever it is. It's raw and it's real and it's there for them. So we're going to be starting that this year as well.
I think that's really cool. And for you kids that are listening, go find some old records, CDs, whatever that your parents have, and listen to a time when there wasn't all the ability for auto tuning, and where studio time was at a bona fide, fairly large studio often that cost a lot of money, and a lot of things were done one take, or at least without all the digital correction, and you realize that there's a lot of beautiful stuff that happens in that environment. So I'm excited
Absolutely.
for you to be doing that. That's really cool.
Thanks. Yeah, they're always asking me for more covers and stuff, so it's going to be a mixture of like covers and original. But again, the premise isn't really the song. The premise is the one take thing.
What are, speaking of covers or listening to music, what sings to you musically these days as a listener? And can you give me 2 categories if it's not somewhere in the realm of pop? And I include, when I say pop, I mean pretty much anything that's popular. And then also maybe something that is more obscure that you really love too, if that's the case that you have both. But what really moves you musically?
Sure. So I'm a sucker. I always have been a sucker for church music, like, Hillsong, songs like that are just more, I like to call them, they're more vertical instead of horizontal. So it's more upward in the intent than person to person. So I did a reaction recently to the song Oceans by Hillsong, and it's the most emotional reaction I've ever done. I actually thought twice about posting it because of how emotional it made me. And so that always gets me. I grew up in church, and I do love worship music. I'm also a sucker for like choir worship music for sure as well. So I do love that. As far as, like I of course love pop. I write a lot of pop. But two things that most people probably don't know about me is that I'm a coloratura in opera. And so I love listening to difficult female arias like Queen of the Night, the Doll song from Tales of Hoffman, Les Oiseaux, songs like that are just, or like Poor Wandering One from Pirates of Penzance, songs that are just crazy hard, Glitter and Be Gay, etc. And then what you also probably don't know about me is that I have a thing for 90s EDM. I kind of love it. So my fiance and I are like a year apart, and we both grew up listening to EDM. In fact, I forgot about this, but I was listening to him with him and the other night, and I said, I just remembered that, when I was listening to EDM in the car, because the chord progressions are so repetitive and there's such buildup, like that's really where I honed my vocal chops to riff and run, because I just knew what was coming as far as the chords were concerned. I would sit in my dad's hunter green pickup truck that I had to drive around as a first car, and I would listen to the songs and I would just blow in the car, like just wail and learn these vocal acrobatics, teach myself. So actually EDM is kind of was my impetus to riffing and running.
Nice. It's so funny. I was going to ask you if there is anything that your staff and or students in particular don't know about you that might surprise you. You kind of answered that, but you can feel free to throw an extra one in for them if you want. But instead, I thought I would ask you, what is the one thing you've been singing so long, and you've been singing at a really high level for so long? So this, I don't know if it'll be easier or super easy for you, but what is the one thing that you have found that helped you to be the best singer that you could be?
It's one simple phrase. It's not about me. And I think that is the issue with most artists out there. It is, you have to push yourself so hard to get anywhere that it so quickly becomes about you. And really, singing has nothing to do about the singer at all. It has everything to do with connecting to your audience and making them feel something. And I get it. Like, you have to be a certain level of narcissistic to push yourself and to sell yourself to others and open those doors. I get it. I've been there. But when you get on that stage, you have to forget all of that. And you have to be a servant. You have to be serving your audience, because if you're not connecting with them, then there's no point. Just go home and sing in your room. And I found that the most successful artists I've ever trained, they get that. I tell them that. We preach that at the studio like it's gospel. Hey, this isn't about you. I know you're here to better your voice, but when you do that and when you get out on the stage, just remember, this is not about you. And to hone that and to hammer that point home, we do 3 showcase performances a year at Tara Simon Studios where they do just that. They have to practice that. They have to get up on a stage with an audience, with lights, with stage management, with everything. They've worked on a sound for 16 lessons, and they go perform it. And we then give them notes, and we're like, you didn't connect, or you did. Great job. Let's work on this time for the next one. So really, it's just one phrase. It's just not about you.
That's great. It's a beautiful reminder for me personally, and I think it's something I'm thinking about it, listening to you talk about it, about the phrase and what it means to you, that it really carries across our lives when we're serving others in any way, including singing. Tara, it's been really great talking with you. Those of you that are listening, please check out all of her work. I think the best place to go is tarasimonstudios.com, and she's got all the great links you need to find out about her YouTube channel and all the other places that you are and where you are going. Thank you a lot. This has been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Roberto. Yeah, actually, for sure. I mean, literally, if you search Tara Simon Studios on YouTube or Instagram, even Pinterest, of course, tarasimonstudios.com, you'll find us everywhere. We're everywhere. We're even on TikTok. So
I've yet to check it out too. I need to. I'm getting old, right? Thanks, Tara.
Oh yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for having me, Roberto. Have a great day.
My pleasure. Hey, thanks again for listening. If you are loving the podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowd sponsor to learn about the various ways that you can offer your support. And again, if you're a listener, I consider you a supporter, especially if you shared it with a friend. Thank you. Find show notes and links to just about everything discussed in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com/podcast. And if you have feedback, questions, or comments about the podcast or this episode and want to leave it in the form of a voice message to me, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. All right, with a whole lot of love and a wee bit more cowbell. Peace. Hey there, one last thing before you go. At the time of this recording, music artists and other creators are facing unusual and uncertain times. I'd like to help out if I can. My contribution is to offer you an opportunity to work with me in a coaching capacity and to only pay what you can afford if you can afford to pay anything at all. Think of it as a virtual tip jar. The point is, I'm here for you if you feel you need the help. There's a bit of a process, but it's pretty simple. Just go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching. There's a button on that page to schedule a 15-minute consult call with me. This is just a call to find out how and if I can help you, and it's also an opportunity for you to find out if you want to work with me and for me to find out if I want to work with you. If we both feel good about it, we'll schedule your sessions, and I'll also answer any questions you have about how it works, including the pay what you want or what you can afford tip jar thing. So go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to learn more. I'll have a limited number of slots, obviously, so if this sounds like something you can use right now, go to unstarvingmusician.com/coaching to learn more and or to get started. Ciao.